The glow of candlelight dances across the elegant table, casting a soft shimmer on the new necklace I had just clasped around Julia's neck. Tonight was meant to celebrate 5 years of marriage, half a decade of love, laughter, and dreams shared. We are at Treviso, her favorite restaurant, known for its hand-painted murals and quiet corners that feel like a world apart. I had planned every detail meticulously, right down to the Cabernet Sauvignon I knew she loved. But something about Julia feels off tonight. She's nervous, her gaze darting around the room instead of meeting mine. Her fingers fiddle with the edge of her napkin, twisting it into a frayed spiral. The lightness that usually fills our conversations is replaced by a strange tension. Finally, after the dessert plates have been cleared, she speaks. "Adrian," she begins, her voice soft but steady, "there's something I need to talk to you about." I lean closer, resting my forearms on the table, trying to catch her elusive gaze. "What is it, Jules?" I ask, hoping it's nothing serious. Maybe she's ready to talk about starting a family, something we've danced around for years but never quite committed to. Her eyes flick to mine for a split second before dropping to the tablecloth. I've been thinking about exploring myself more, as a person, and well, as a woman. I sit back, confused. "What do you mean? Aren't we exploring life together?" "No, not like that," she says quickly. Her cheeks flush pink, but her words tumble out faster now. "I mean outside of us. I think I need to meet other people, experience relationships beyond this one." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Other relationships?" I repeat, my voice tighter than I expect. "Are you talking about having an affair?" She shakes her head. No, I'm not saying it like that. I want us to be open about it. If you love me, Adrian, you'll let me do this. I need to feel alive again." Alive again? We're supposed to be celebrating the life we've built together. My hand tightens around my glass of wine, and I take a long, bitter sip. "So, you want to sleep with other men, and you want my blessing?" "Please, keep your voice down," she whispers, glancing around nervously. I glance around too, realizing she's deliberately chosen a public place to ambush me. Clever. Very clever. I push my chair back, the wooden legs scraping against the floor. "You know what? Enjoy your dessert," I say, grabbing my keys. "Take a cab home." "Adrian, wait," she calls after me, but I'm already walking out the door, the night air hitting my face like a slap. My mind spins as I get into my car and drive aimlessly through the city streets. I wake up to the unforgiving glare of sunlight streaming through my car window. My neck aches from the awkward position I slept in, and my suit jacket is wrinkled beyond repair. For a moment, I hope it was all just a terrible dream. But the text notifications on my phone shatter that illusion. "Adrian, where are you? Are you okay? Please come home. We need to talk." Her messages are relentless, but I can't bring myself to respond. I toss the phone onto the passenger seat and step out of the car, stretching my stiff limbs. The smell of fresh coffee from a nearby diner calls to me, and I decide to grab breakfast before facing the chaos waiting at home. Sitting at the counter, I sip the strongest coffee they have and replay last night in my mind. Julia's words echo like a broken record. "If you love me, you'll let me do this." My stomach churns at the thought. How could she twist love into some grotesque form of permission for betrayal? The waitress interrupts my spiraling thoughts with a plate of eggs and bacon. I force myself to eat, knowing I'll need the energy to deal with what comes next. By the time I finish, I've cobbled together a rough plan. I'll go home, let her explain herself fully, and figure out if there's anything left to salvage. Deep down, though, I know the foundation of our marriage has already cracked. When I pull into the driveway, Julia is waiting on the porch, her arms crossed, her face pale. She rushes toward me as I get out of the car. "Adrian, thank God you're home. I was so worried." I sidestep her attempted hug and head inside without a word. She follows me, her voice trembling. "We need to talk. Please." "I'll shower first," I say curtly, heading upstairs. I can feel her eyes on my back, but I don't turn around. The hot water does little to wash away the tension coiled in my chest. By the time I'm dressed and back in the kitchen, Julia is sitting at the counter, nursing a cup of tea. Okay, I say, sitting across from her. Let's talk. Explain to me how this ridiculous plan of yours is supposed to work. Her hands tremble slightly as she sets her mug down. Adrian, I need this. I need to figure out who I am and what I want. I love you, but I also need to explore other parts of myself. Explore other parts of yourself, I echo, barely able to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. And how does that involve other men? It's not just about sex, she insists. It's about connection, about, spare me the euphemisms, I cut in. You want to cheat on me. Let's call it what it is. It's not cheating if you know about it, she says quietly, but her words ignite something in me. My laugh is bitter. Wow, that's a hell of a justification. So, what's the plan, Julia? You go out, have your fun, and then what? You come back here like nothing happened? You think I'll just be waiting for you with open arms? Tears well up in her eyes, but I don't care. For once, I don't care about softening the blow. Adrian, I'm not leaving you. I want us to stay together while I figure this out. I take a deep breath, my anger bubbling dangerously close to the surface. Let me make one thing clear. If you go down this path, Julia, you're the one leaving, not me, and you'll do it on your own. She stares at me, speechless. I push back from the table, grabbing my keys. I need air. I don't wait for her reply as I walk out the door. The brisk air outside does little to calm the storm inside me. I walk aimlessly through the neighborhood, my mind churning with questions I don't want to ask but can't ignore. How did we get here? How long has she been thinking about this? And most importantly, why did I not see it coming? By the time I circle back to the house, dusk is settling in, casting long shadows across the driveway. Julia's car is still there, but the house is eerily quiet when I step inside. She's in the living room, sitting stiffly on the edge of the couch, clutching a throw pillow like it's some kind of shield. I'm not going to argue all night, I announce, leaning against the doorway. We're having this out now, and I want you to be honest. Her voice is barely above a whisper. I have been honest. No, you haven't, I snap, my voice sharper than I intend. You've been playing mind games, using vague terms to justify breaking our marriage vows. Stop dancing around it, Julia. What exactly do you want? Her face hardens, and for the first time, there's defiance in her eyes. I want freedom, Adrian. I want to feel alive again, like I'm more than just someone's wife. The words sting, but I don't flinch. And you think the solution is to destroy everything we've built together? To toss our marriage aside like it's meaningless? I'm not tossing it aside, she protests. I love you, Adrian. I need this. For us. For us, I repeat mockingly. Don't kid yourself. This is for you and you alone. So here's the deal. I cross my arms and lean forward slightly. If you go through with this, you'll do it without me. What does that mean? She asks, her voice quivering. It means you move out, I say bluntly. You want to live like you're single? Fine. Then live somewhere else. But you're not staying under this roof while you explore your new life. Her mouth opens, then closes again, as if she doesn't quite know how to respond. Adrian, I thought you'd support me. Support you? I bark out a humorless laugh. Support you abandoning everything we've promised each other? Julia, you're asking me to do the impossible. She lowers her gaze, her fingers gripping the pillow tighter. Where would I even go? I don't care, I reply, my tone colder than I expected. Figure it out. Maybe stay with your friend, Sophie. Isn't she the one who's always talking about how much fun it is to reclaim yourself, or whatever nonsense? Julia flinches, but I press on. Pack your things, Julia, because if you're serious about this, I won't stand in your way. But don't expect me to stick around waiting for you. For a moment, the silence between us feels suffocating. Then, without another word, she stands and walks past me toward the stairs. I hear the bedroom door click shut, followed by muffled sobs. I stand there for a while, staring at the empty couch, wondering if I just made the right call, or the biggest mistake of my life. The next morning, I'm awake early, but the house feels unnaturally quiet. I avoid going upstairs, not ready to face Julia again after last night. Instead, I settle into the kitchen with a cup of black coffee and my laptop, trying to focus on emails and anything else that can distract me. Eventually, I hear footsteps on the stairs. Julia appears, still in her pajamas, her face pale and puffy from crying. She hesitates at the doorway, clutching the frame like it's holding her up. "Morning," I say flatly, not looking up. "Adrian," she begins, her voice trembling. "Can we talk? Please." I close the laptop with a sigh. "Fine. Let's hear it." She sits down across from me, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said last night. And I want you to understand that this isn't about pushing you away. I want us to stay married." I scoff, leaning back in my chair. "You've got a funny way of showing it." "Adrian, I'm serious," she snaps, and for the first time, there's fire in her tone. "I love you. I don't want to lose you, but I need to figure out who I am outside of this marriage. And you think the only way to do that is by sleeping with other people?" I ask, incredulous. Her eyes well up with tears, but she doesn't look away. "It's not just about that. It's about rediscovering myself. I've spent so much of my life being what everyone else wanted me to be. Your wife, the perfect partner. I feel lost. Lost," I repeat bitterly. "And your solution is to torch everything we've built together." She flinches but doesn't respond. I let the silence hang for a moment before leaning forward, resting my elbows on the table. "Here's how this works, Julia. If you go down this path, you do it on your own. You move out. You pay your own way. You live with the consequences of your choices." "And what about us?" she asks, her voice breaking. "Are you saying it's over?" "I'm saying it's up to you," I reply evenly. "If you walk out that door, there's no guarantee you'll have anything to come back to. You're gambling everything on this journey of self-discovery. You better hope it's worth it." Tears stream down her face, but I don't feel the usual pull to comfort her. Instead, I feel numb, like I'm watching this conversation happen from outside my body. She wipes her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "You're really making me choose?" "No, Julia," I say firmly. "You already made your choice when you brought this up. I'm just setting the terms." For a moment, she looks like she might argue, but then she stands abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. Without another word, she walks out of the room. I sit there long after she's gone, staring at the empty space she left behind. The house feels heavier somehow, like it's mourning with me. Julia spends the rest of the day upstairs, emerging only briefly to grab a glass of water before retreating back into the bedroom. I let her have her space. As much as I want to press her, demand answers, I know it's pointless. She's caught in her own world now, spinning in the web of her decisions. That evening, she comes downstairs with a suitcase. Her face is pale, her eyes hollow. "I'll stay with Sophie for a little while," she says, her voice flat, "until I figure out what I'm doing." I nod, keeping my expression neutral. Good. That's probably for the best. The tension between us is suffocating, but I'm too exhausted to care. She stands by the door, her suitcase at her side, as if waiting for me to say something. But what is there to say? I can't talk her out of this. She's already made up her mind. Finally, she sighs and opens the door. "I love you, Adrian," she says quietly. "I hope you know that." I don't respond. I just watch as she walks out, the door clicking shut behind her. The silence that follows is deafening. For the first time in years, I'm alone in our house. I wander through the rooms aimlessly, each one filled with memories I'd rather not relive. The dining room, where we hosted dinner parties and laughed with friends. The living room, where we curled up on the couch during movie nights. The bedroom, now stripped of her presence, feels like a stranger's space. I sit on the edge of the bed, staring at the bare wall across from me. My mind churns with questions. How did we get here? Could I have done something differently? But deep down, I know the answers won't change anything. What's done is done. By the next morning, I realize I can't stay in this limbo. If Julia wants to explore her so-called freedom, I won't stop her. But I won't let her keep me on standby either. I grab a pad of paper and start making a list, a plan to reclaim my life. First, I call a locksmith. By the time Julia returns to pack more of her things, the locks will be changed, and she'll know that this house is no longer hers. Next, I make an appointment with a divorce attorney. It's a precaution, I tell myself, but the reality is clear. This marriage is hanging by a thread, and I need to prepare for the worst. Later that evening, as I'm sorting through bills and paperwork, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Julia. Made it to Sophie's. Let me know if you need anything. I stare at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. For a moment, I consider responding, but then I set the phone down. There's nothing I need from her. Not anymore. The house feels different now. Emptier, yes, but also lighter. As if a weight has been lifted. For the first time in days, I feel a flicker of hope. Maybe this is the beginning of something new. Maybe, just maybe, I can rebuild from this. The locksmith arrives early the next morning. I watch from the kitchen window as he replaces the locks on the front door, then the back. The clinking of metal and occasional muttered curses as he works are oddly comforting. By the time he's done, I feel a small sense of control returning. Anything else you need done? The locksmith asks, handing me the new keys. No, that's it, I say, taking them and slipping one onto my keyring. Thanks. He nods and leaves, and for the first time, I lock the door behind someone with a sense of finality. Julia may have walked out of this house, but she doesn't get to walk back in whenever she pleases. If she's chosen a life without boundaries, then I'll set my own. I spend the rest of the day clearing out the remnants of her presence. Her forgotten shoes by the door, her favorite mug in the kitchen cabinet, even the books she left stacked on the nightstand. They all go into a box. I'm careful not to throw anything away. Despite everything, I'm not cruel. If she wants these things, she can come and get them. But they don't belong in my space anymore. That evening, I sit in the living room with a glass of whiskey, staring at the box of Julia's belongings. The anger I felt when she first dropped her bombshell has simmered down, replaced by a cold determination. This isn't the end for me. If she wants to redefine her life, then so will I. The next morning, I meet with the divorce attorney. Her office is sleek and professional, much like her demeanor. She's in her late 30s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense tone that I appreciate. So, tell me what's going on, she says, leaning back in her chair. I recount the events of the past few days, feeling a mix of embarrassment and resolve as I explain Julia's proposal and her departure. The attorney listens carefully, jotting down notes. It sounds like you're still in a bit of a gray area, she says when I finish. You haven't filed for divorce yet, and she hasn't outright abandoned the marriage. But it's clear you're both headed in opposite directions. I nod. I just want to be prepared. I don't know what she'll do next, and I don't want to be blindsided. That's smart, she says, flipping through some papers. Here's what we can do. We'll draft a separation agreement to set some clear terms. Living arrangements, financial responsibilities, that sort of thing. If things escalate, we'll be ready to file for divorce. Do it, I say without hesitation. As I leave her office, I feel a strange sense of empowerment. For the first time since this ordeal began, I'm taking action instead of reacting. Julia may have started this mess, but I'm the one who will decide how it ends. Later that day, I receive a text from her. Can I stop by to pick up a few things? I hesitate, my fingers hovering over the screen. Then I type back, your things are packed in a box in the garage. Let me know when you'll be here, and I'll make sure it's unlocked. Her reply is quick, thanks. It's a small interaction, but it feels significant. For the first time, I'm setting the rules. This is my life now, and I won't let Julia, or anyone else, dictate how I live it. The following evening, Julia pulls into the driveway. I watch from the kitchen window as she steps out of her car, her posture hesitant, her movements slower than usual. She's wearing a casual sweater and jeans, but she still looks like the woman I married. Only now, she feels like a stranger. I step out onto the porch as she approaches the garage. The box is inside, I say flatly, nodding toward the door. Thanks, she says quietly, not meeting my eyes. I unlock the garage and step aside as she enters. The box of her belongings sits neatly in the corner. She hesitates for a moment, then picks it up and places it in her trunk. For a second, I think she might leave without saying a word, but then she turns to face me. Adrian, she begins, her voice soft, almost pleading. Can we talk? I fold my arms across my chest. Talk about what, Julia? You've made your choice. Her shoulders sag slightly, and she takes a tentative step closer. I want you to understand that this isn't about us falling apart. It's about me trying to figure out who I am. You've said that already, I reply coldly, and I still don't buy it. Her face falls, and for a brief moment, I feel a pang of guilt. But then I remember the countless nights I stayed up, wondering where we went wrong, while she planned her exploration. I don't know how else to explain it, she says finally. I love you, Adrian. I really do. But I need this time. I need to feel like I'm in control of my life. And what about me? I ask, my voice rising slightly. What about the promises we made to each other? Do they mean nothing? They mean everything, she says quickly, tears brimming in her eyes. That's why I'm doing this. So I can come back to you as a better person. I shake my head, the bitterness rising in my throat. You're delusional if you think this is going to make us stronger. You're tearing us apart, Julia. She stares at me, her eyes pleading for some kind of understanding, but I have nothing left to give. After a long silence, she sighs and looks away. I'll call you if I need anything else, she murmurs. Don't bother, I say, turning to walk back into the house. You're on your own now. I shut the door behind me, leaning against it as the weight of the encounter settles over me. Part of me wants to chase after her, to beg her to stay, to fix what's broken. But I know it's futile. She's already gone, even if she doesn't realize it yet. That night, as I sit alone in the quiet of the living room, I make a decision. If Julia is choosing this path, then I'll choose mine. I won't let her actions define my life. It's time to focus on myself and figure out what's next for me. The days following Julia's departure feel like a strange limbo. The house is quieter, emptier, but the absence isn't entirely unwelcome. For the first time in what feels like forever, I have space to think, really think, without the constant weight of her looming presence. I start with the basics, cleaning up the remnants of our shared life. Her favorite throw blanket on the couch, the framed photos of us smiling at some vacation destination, even the mug she always used for her morning tea. It all goes into storage. It's not out of spite, but necessity. I need to reclaim this space as my own. After work, I throw myself into new routines. The gym becomes my second home, a place where I can channel the anger and confusion into something productive. The rhythmic pounding of my feet on the treadmill, the steady clink of weights. Each movement feels like progress, a small step toward regaining control. I also reconnect with old friends, people I'd unintentionally drifted from during the years I poured everything into my marriage. My best friend, Lucas, is the first to invite me out for drinks. We meet at a quiet bar downtown, and it doesn't take long for the conversation to turn to Julia. So, she just left? Lucas asks, his brow furrowed in disbelief. Pretty much, I say, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. She said she needed time to figure herself out, whatever that means. Sounds like she's trying to have her cake and eat it too, he mutters, shaking his head. You're better off, man. Trust me. I nod, but the words don't sink in just yet. It's one thing to hear that I'm better off, and another to feel it. Still, it's good to talk about it, to say the words out loud instead of letting them fester in my mind. By the end of the night, I feel lighter. Not healed, not whole, but lighter. Lucas claps me on the back as we part ways. You'll get through this, he says confidently. You're tougher than you think. At home, the emptiness is waiting for me, but this time, it doesn't feel quite as heavy. I pour myself a glass of water and sit at the kitchen table, staring out into the darkened yard. For the first time, I let myself imagine a future without Julia, a life where I'm free to rebuild, to find happiness on my own terms. The thought doesn't scare me as much as it should. The next morning, I wake up early and lace up my running shoes. The crisp morning air greets me as I step outside, and I start jogging through the neighborhood. With each stride, the weight on my chest feels a little lighter, the fog in my mind a little clearer. I'm not running away from the past. I'm running towards something new. As the days turn into weeks, I find myself settling into a rhythm. Work, gym, and occasional outings with friends become my staples. Each passing day feels like another step toward reclaiming my independence. Yet, there's a part of me that can't shake the sense of unfinished business with Julia. That's when the phone call comes. It's mid-afternoon on a Saturday, and I'm elbow-deep in a home improvement project, painting the guest room a fresh coat of slate blue. My phone buzzes on the windowsill, and her name flashes on the screen. I stare at it for a moment, debating whether to answer. Curiosity wins. Adrian. Julia's voice comes through, soft and uncertain. Hi. Hi, I reply curtly, setting the paintbrush down. What's up? I wanted to check in. See how you're doing, she says, her tone laced with hesitation. I lean against the windowsill, crossing my arms. I'm fine, Julia. What do you need? There's a pause, the kind that feels heavy with words left unsaid. Finally, she speaks. I was wondering if we could meet, just to talk. I take a deep breath, feeling the familiar knot tighten in my stomach. Talk about what? Everything, she says quickly. I feel like we left things unresolved. Unresolved. That's one way to put it. But part of me is curious to hear what she has to say, to see if there's any clarity to be found in this mess. Fine, I say after a moment. When? Tomorrow? Maybe we could meet at the park near the river. Around 2? All right, I agree, keeping my voice neutral. I'll see you then. The call ends, and I stand there for a moment, staring at the phone. A part of me regrets agreeing, but another part, one I don't fully understand yet, is eager to hear her out. The next day, I arrive at the park a few minutes early. It's a beautiful afternoon, the kind of day that seems tailor-made for forgetting your troubles. Families are scattered across the grass, children laughing as they chase each other around the playground. I sit on a bench overlooking the river, waiting. Julia arrives shortly after, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail and a tentative smile on her face. She sits next to me, leaving a careful distance between us. Thanks for meeting me, she begins, her voice soft. I nod but say nothing, waiting for her to get to the point. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she continues, wringing her hands. About us. About what I want. And? I prompt, my tone colder than I intend. She hesitates, her eyes fixed on the ground. I still love you, Adrian. I never stopped. But I also know that I needed this time to figure myself out. I scoff, shaking my head. And what have you figured out, Julia? That you can't have it both ways? Her cheeks flush, and she looks away. I know I hurt you, she admits. And I'm sorry. I thought I could balance everything, but I realize now that I was selfish. Selfish doesn't even begin to cover it. I say, my voice sharp. You tore our marriage apart because you couldn't handle your own insecurities. And now you expect me to just, what? Forgive and forget? I don't expect anything, she says quickly. I just wanted you to know how I feel. For a moment, neither of us speaks. The sounds of the park fill the silence between us. Finally, I stand, looking down at her. Thanks for letting me know, I say curtly, but I'm not sure it changes anything. I walk away before she can respond, my heart pounding in my chest. There's nothing left to say. The walk back to my car is slow, deliberate. My hands tremble slightly, but not from nerves. This time, it's anger. Julia's apology, if it can even be called that, feels like a half-hearted attempt to absolve herself. She wanted to explain her actions, but not take full responsibility for the damage they caused. When I get home, I sit at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of papers from the attorney. The draft separation agreement is at the top of the pile. I pick it up and flip through it, reading the carefully worded terms. Financial independence, division of property, the clear boundaries of our separate lives. It's all there in black and white. My phone buzzes on the table. Another text from Julia. Thank you for meeting me today. I hope we can talk again soon. I don't reply. Instead, I turn my focus back to the document in front of me. This is what matters now. Protecting myself, setting boundaries, and moving forward. I grab a pen and sign where my attorney indicated, sealing the next step in this unraveling marriage. The next morning, I drop the signed papers off at my attorney's office. She looks them over and nods, her expression approving. This is a good move, she says. It'll give you some clarity and structure while you figure out what comes next. Clarity, I repeat, the word rolling awkwardly in my mouth. It's not clarity I want, it's closure. But I nod anyway and leave, feeling a small weight lift as I walk back to my car. For the first time, I feel like I'm taking control of the situation instead of reacting to it. Over the next week, I throw myself even deeper into my new routines. The gym becomes more than just a place to blow off steam. It's a refuge. I push myself harder with every session, finding a strange kind of solace in the burn of my muscles and the pounding rhythm of my heart. I also begin attending a weekly cycling group, something I'd been meaning to try for years but always put off. The group is welcoming, and the camaraderie feels good. On our first ride together, I find myself smiling for the first time in weeks as we race along the winding trails outside the city. One of the riders, a woman named Elena, catches my eye. She's confident, with an easy laugh and a sharp wit that cuts through the group's banter. We ride side by side for much of the morning, exchanging stories about work, hobbies, and the little quirks of life. It's light, effortless, and a welcome distraction from the storm that's been consuming me. When the ride ends, Elena turns to me with a smile. "You're pretty good for a first-timer," she says, teasing. "Beginner's luck," I reply, grinning back. "Well, don't let it go to your head. We ride again next Thursday. Same time?" "I'll be there." As I drive home, I realize how long it's been since I've looked forward to something. The thought of another ride, another chance to connect with people outside the shadow of my crumbling marriage, fills me with a sense of hope I didn't know I was missing. Thursday arrives quicker than I expect, and I find myself eagerly packing my gear for the cycling group. The anticipation feels strange, almost foreign, like a distant memory of excitement that's slowly resurfacing. As I drive to the meeting spot, I catch myself glancing in the rearview mirror, noticing a spark in my eyes that's been missing for weeks. The group gathers in the parking lot near the trailhead, everyone buzzing with the usual pre-ride energy. Elena spots me and waves, her smile as bright as the morning sun. She's wearing a sleek black and red cycling outfit, her confidence radiating as she adjusts her helmet. "Glad you made it," she says as I approach. "You ready for another beating?" "Bring it on," I reply, grinning. The ride is challenging but exhilarating. The trail weaves through dense woods, opening occasionally to breathtaking views of rolling hills and open fields. Elena rides ahead of me, her pace steady and strong, but she glances back occasionally to make sure I'm keeping up. It's a subtle gesture, but one that makes me feel included, connected. At the halfway point, we stop at a small clearing to catch our breath and refuel. The group spreads out, some sitting on fallen logs, others chatting as they sip from water bottles and snack on energy bars. Elena sits next to me, stretching her legs and letting out a satisfied sigh. "You're getting better," she says, nudging me lightly with her elbow. "I might have to step up my game." "Careful," I tease. "I might actually catch up to you one of these days." She laughs, a sound that feels like a balm to my frayed nerves. "We'll see about that." As the ride resumes, I find myself pushing harder, not just to keep up, but to prove something to myself. By the time we return to the parking lot, I'm drenched in sweat and grinning like an idiot. Elena claps me on the back as we load our bikes onto our cars. "Same time next week?" she asks, her tone casual but inviting. "Definitely," I reply. Later that evening, I reflect on the ride as I sit on the back porch with a beer. For the first time in weeks, I feel like I'm moving towards something instead of running from it. Elena's easy camaraderie, the support of the group, the sheer joy of being outdoors. It all feels like a step in the right direction. I pick up my phone and scroll through the messages from Julia, most of which I've ignored. Her texts have grown less frequent, but one from earlier in the day catches my eye. "Can we meet again? I miss you." I stare at the screen, torn between responding and letting it go. But before I can decide, another message comes through, from Elena. It's a simple, "Great ride today," but it makes me smile. I set the phone down without replying to Julia's text. For now, my focus is on the road ahead, not the one behind me. The days continue to pass, and with each one, I feel a little more distance between me and the turmoil Julia left in her wake. My routines solidify into something comforting, a mix of work, gym, and cycling. Elena and I begin riding together outside of the group, exploring new trails and getting to know each other better. Her presence is a steadying force, one I didn't realize I needed. But Julia's texts persist, each one a reminder of the unfinished chapter I'm reluctant to revisit. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I find myself scrolling through the messages. They start innocuously enough, checking in, asking how I'm doing, but soon shift to more pointed comments. I miss us. Can we talk about what went wrong? I'm not giving up on us. Each message feels like a weight pressing against my chest. I set the phone down and rub my temples, debating what to do. I know I can't keep ignoring her forever. If I want to move forward, I need to close this door for good. The next morning, I text Julia and agree to meet. Let's talk one last time, I write, the words feeling heavier than I expect. We arrange to meet at a small cafe downtown. It's neutral territory, far from the emotional associations of our home or the places we once frequented together. When I arrive, she's already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee cradled in her hands. She looks up as I approach, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Thanks for coming, she says softly as I sit down. I nod, keeping my expression neutral. What did you want to talk about? She takes a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she sets down the cup. Adrian, I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes, but I still believe in us. I believe we can fix this. Her words hang in the air, but they don't have the impact she seems to expect. I've played this conversation over in my mind too many times, and now that it's happening, it feels almost anticlimactic. I don't think we can, Julia. I say finally, my voice calm but firm. What you did, it broke something. Something I don't think can be repaired. Her face crumples, and she leans forward, her voice desperate. I was lost, Adrian. I didn't know what I was doing, but I see it now. I see how wrong I was. Please, let's try again. I shake my head, my heart heavy but resolute. You didn't just hurt me, Julia. You shattered the trust we built, and that's not something that can be fixed with an apology. I need to move on, and I think you do too. Tears spill down her cheeks, but I don't reach out to comfort her. I can't. This conversation isn't about easing her pain. It's about finding closure for both of us. I loved you, Julia. I continue. But love isn't enough when there's no respect, no loyalty. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but it won't be with me. She sobs quietly, nodding as she wipes her face with a napkin. I'm sorry, she whispers. I'm so sorry. I stand, placing a few bills on the table to cover my coffee. Take care of yourself, Julia. As I walk out of the cafe, the cool evening air feels like a cleansing wave. For the first time since this ordeal began, I feel a sense of finality. Julia is part of my past now, and I'm ready to embrace the future. Leaving the cafe feels like stepping into a new reality, one where I'm finally free from the weight of Julia's choices. The cool breeze against my face is invigorating, like a silent reminder that I'm still here, still standing, and life is still moving forward. Over the next week, my focus sharpens. The separation agreement is finalized and sent to Julia, marking the official start of a life without her. My attorney assures me that the process will be straightforward as long as we stick to the terms. I nod, relieved that the legal end of this mess is in motion. Meanwhile, Elena and I continue to grow closer. What started as casual cycling meetups has evolved into something deeper. She has a way of making the world feel lighter, her laughter infectious and her presence grounding. For the first time in months, I feel genuinely happy. One Saturday, she invites me to join her at a local art festival. It's not something I typically attend, but the idea of spending the day with her is more than enough incentive. The festival is vibrant and buzzing with energy, stalls lined with colorful paintings, handmade crafts, and street food that fills the air with tantalizing aromas. Elena leads me to a booth displaying intricate metal sculptures, her eyes lighting up as she admires the craftsmanship. "Isn't this amazing?" she says, turning to me with a smile. I nod, but my attention isn't on the sculptures. It's on her, the way her excitement radiates through every gesture, every word. "Yeah," I say softly, "it really is." She catches me staring and blushes slightly, a rare moment of vulnerability that only makes her more endearing. "What?" she asks, laughing. "Nothing," I reply, grinning. "Just enjoying the view." She shakes her head, but the smile she gives me lingers long after the moment passes. As the day stretches on, we share stories over food truck tacos and wander through the festival, stopping occasionally to listen to live music or watch street performers. It's easy, natural, and everything I didn't realize I was missing. By the time we leave, the sun is setting, casting a warm golden hue over the town. "Thanks for coming with me today," Elena says as we walk back to our cars. "I wasn't sure if this would be your thing, but I'm glad you came." "Me too," I admit. "It was perfect." We stand there for a moment, the air between us charged with unspoken possibilities. Finally, I take a chance, leaning in to kiss her. It's soft and tentative, but when she kisses me back, it feels like the world tilts back into balance. As we part ways, I realize something profound. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm living. Julia's betrayal and the pain it brought me no longer define my life. This is my chance to start fresh, and for the first time in a long time, I'm ready. Over the next few weeks, my relationship with Elena begins to feel like the calm after the storm. What started as casual cycling meetups and shared adventures has blossomed into something more meaningful. She has a way of pulling me out of my head, grounding me in the present with her easy laughter and genuine kindness. We spend more time together, not just riding trails but cooking meals, watching movies, and simply enjoying each other's company. It's the kind of connection I hadn't realized I was missing. A relationship built on mutual respect, shared interests, and an unspoken understanding. One evening, we're sitting on my back porch, a bottle of wine between us and the stars scattered across the clear night sky. Elena leans back in her chair, her legs tucked under her, looking completely at ease. "Can I ask you something?" she says, her voice soft but curious. "Of course," I reply, taking a sip of wine. "What's your biggest takeaway from everything?" she asks, gesturing vaguely but knowingly. "From what happened with Julia, I mean." I pause, letting the question sink in. It's something I've thought about often, but putting it into words feels like a challenge. Finally, I set my glass down and meet her gaze. "I think I've learned the importance of boundaries," I say slowly, "of knowing when to fight for something and when to let go. I spent so much time trying to make things work, ignoring the signs that Julia wasn't happy, or maybe that I wasn't either. And when it all fell apart, I realized I didn't even know what I wanted anymore." Elena nods, her expression thoughtful. "That makes sense. It's hard to see the cracks when you're so focused on holding everything together." "Exactly," I say, leaning back. "I guess the biggest lesson is that you can't control someone else's choices. You can only control how you respond to them." She smiles, her eyes warm. "That's a pretty solid takeaway. What about you?" I ask, turning the question back on her. "Any big life lessons you've picked up along the way?" She laughs, a light and carefree sound. "Oh, plenty. But I think the one that sticks out the most is this: don't settle for anything less than joy. Life's too short to waste on people or situations that don't make you feel alive." Her words resonate with me in a way I wasn't expecting. "You're right," I say quietly. "Joy. That's what I'm aiming for now." She reaches across the table and takes my hand, her touch gentle but grounding. "You're well on your way, Adrian." As the weeks turn into months, my life begins to feel like my own again. The separation agreement with Julia is finalized, and we part ways without further drama. I hear through mutual friends that she's still searching for whatever it was she thought she'd find, but the news no longer stirs any emotion in me. She's a chapter in my story, one that's closed now. With Elena, I feel a sense of possibility I hadn't believed in for a long time. We take things slow, building our relationship on a foundation of trust and openness. There's no rush, no pressure, just a mutual understanding that we're both in this for the right reasons. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm not just existing, I'm truly living. Life feels different now. Not perfect, far from it, but there's a lightness to it, a sense of direction I haven't felt in years. My days are filled with routines that bring me peace and a newfound clarity about what matters. Elena is a significant part of that. Her presence has become a steady, grounding force in my life, and the joy she brings feels earned, not fleeting. One Saturday, we decide to go kayaking on the lake near the city. It's one of her favorite activities, something she picked up years ago but hasn't done in a while. We rent 2 sleek kayaks and paddle out into the calm, glassy water. The sun is high, reflecting off the surface in brilliant shards of light, and the gentle rhythm of our paddles slicing through the water feels almost meditative. "So," Elena says as we drift to a stop near a cluster of trees growing along the shoreline, "how does it feel to be here now?" In this moment, I look around, taking in the quiet beauty of the scene. The way the sunlight filters through the leaves, the soft hum of insects in the distance, the occasional splash of fish breaking the surface. It feels peaceful, I say honestly, like I've finally found a bit of balance. She smiles, her paddle resting across her lap. "That's good to hear. You've been through a lot, Adrian. You deserve some peace." Her words settle over me like a warm blanket. For so long, I thought peace would be impossible. But sitting here now, with Elena beside me and the chaos of the past firmly in the rear view, I realize how far I've come. We spend the rest of the afternoon exploring the lake, stopping occasionally to admire the scenery or share a laugh over some clumsy mishap, usually mine. By the time we return to the dock, the sun is beginning to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. "Thanks for today," I say as we load the kayaks onto the rental truck. It was exactly what I needed. She looks at me, her expression soft but serious. "You're exactly what I needed too, Adrian." Her words catch me off guard, but in the best way. I reach out, taking her hand in mine. "Let's keep doing this," I say, "building something real. Together." She nods, her smile lighting up her entire face. Together. That evening, as we sit on my porch with a bottle of wine, the conversation turns to the future. It's the first time I've allowed myself to think beyond the immediate, to imagine what a life with Elena might look like. "I don't want to rush anything," I say, swirling the wine in my glass. "But I think it has potential. A lot of potential." She leans against my shoulder, her voice soft. "I think so too." The stars begin to appear overhead, one by one, until the sky is a tapestry of light. I feel her warmth beside me, her steady presence, and I know that this right here, is what I've been searching for all along. Not perfection, not some unattainable ideal, but something real, something worth fighting for. The weeks that follow feel like the dawn of a new chapter in my life. I wake up each morning with a sense of purpose, a feeling of excitement for what lies ahead. Elena and I continue to grow closer, our connection deepening with each shared experience. It's not just the fun adventures or lighthearted conversations. It's the quiet moments too, the way we can sit in silence together and feel completely at ease. One evening, as we're making dinner at my place, Elena pauses mid-chop, her knife hovering over a cutting board piled with fresh vegetables. "You've been different lately," she says, glancing at me with a smile. "Happier." I grin as I stir the pasta sauce simmering on the stove. "That's because I am." She sets the knife down and leans against the counter, studying me. "Do you think it's because you've finally let go? Of the past, I mean?" I nod, the truth of her words resonating deeply. "Yeah, I think so. For a long time, I felt like I was stuck in this cycle of anger and regret. But meeting you, finding someone who brings out the best in me, it's helped me move forward." Her cheeks flush slightly, and she reaches out to take my hand. I think we've both helped each other. The moment feels significant, like a silent acknowledgement of everything we've been through to get here. For once, the future doesn't feel like an overwhelming unknown. It feels like an opportunity. Months pass, and our relationship continues to flourish. We start talking about moving in together, a step that once would have terrified me but now feels natural. The house that once felt so empty now feels alive again, filled with laughter, warmth, and a sense of partnership I hadn't realized I was capable of sharing. One evening, as we're sitting on the couch, Elena pulls out a small leather-bound journal. "I've been keeping this for years," she says, flipping through its pages, "writing down my goals, my dreams. I lean closer, curious. What's in there? She grins and hands it to me. Take a look. The pages are filled with a mix of doodles, notes, and lists. Everything from travel destinations to personal milestones she wants to achieve. One entry catches my eye. Find someone who makes me feel at home. I glance at her, my heart swelling. I think you've done that. She laughs softly, her eyes bright. I think we both have. As the year comes to a close, I reflect on how far I've come. The pain of the past, the betrayal that once felt insurmountable, has faded into the background. It's a part of my story, but it no longer defines me. Elena and I spend New Year's Eve together, toasting to the future as the clock strikes midnight. I pull her close, feeling a sense of gratitude I can't quite put into words. To new beginnings, I say, raising my glass. She smiles, clinking her glass against mine. To us. As the fireworks light up the sky, I know that the journey to this moment hasn't been easy, but it's been worth every step. I've learned the value of resilience, the importance of setting boundaries, and the power of allowing yourself to hope again. And now, with Elena by my side, I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. What would you do if you were faced with a similar situation? Have you ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more gripping tales of resilience and personal growth, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. Your support means the world to us.